There, the better. Is everything nice and prepped? Working? I think it is. Great. Wow, sword berries. First person today, that's new. Hello, cordless blue. Ruin, greetings. Sorry for being late, says Vesper. I had to sort something out with the dogs. I will be there soon. Take your time. Just hanging out here anyway. Let's see. So we have quick access to our pins. There. Cord. A bit. Nyx Nebula, greetings. Hello there. Gabo stream. At this year, at this latitude, localized entirely in VR chat. Hello, Art. Nice to see you. I'm surprised you're tuning in. Aren't you busy doing science things and whatnot? Nice scenery tonight. Yeah, I figured I'd go to my usual place. 7 months, huh? My gosh, it's already been that
Surprised it has
long.
been this long, TBH. Time flies.
Time really does fly, doesn't it? My goodness. Swordberry says, I just finished doing a movie marathon with friends. I'm going to regret. I have to commute to work tomorrow. Good luck. I hope you did not compromise on time too much. Ah, yes, the cozy vibes have blessed my screen once more. Hello, Salis. But isn't the one who's been starting to miss the meetups. Hello, Rook. I'll run on sugar and spite tomorrow. Enjoy the diabetes and spite. A 20 watch stream. Ah, you sure are dedicated, Salis. Ah, I might even mistake you for a fan. The rain is very realistic as I wait for the bus in the rain. Hello, Bombar. It must be immersive on your end, isn't it? The way you speak is exactly how I'd expect a fantasy dragon to speak. A fantasy dragon, please. Those wise, majestic creatures are there. Me, I'm here. They're like, "Hmm, only a fool would walk into my cavern, sort of deal. Treasure in exchange for this, answer me riddles, and how are you doing? I'm doing great. I'm just chilling. It seems I've caught up on sleep. I've been trying to stay up around 4 hours prior to stream, maybe sneak in some Valheim, but alas, my constitution requires me to go be rendered unconscious, make me fall asleep. You guys game after I stream. I'm sure Vesper will look forward to it as much as I am. How did the Valheim go for the rest of the night? We played maybe 30 more minutes, that's it. We still have not beaten the deer. What's the name? Aketir. So that first boss, right? Apparently, the first summonings Vesper and I did a few days ago still has not let the boss despawn. No, it's very much there in the wilds, just free roaming. My constitution is if it's cold, I'm sleepy. If I'm sleepy, I sleep in. The joys of being able to take your 5 minute naps into a time dilation effect and enjoying it as a 5 hour one instead. Should ride the deer. If you're going to play with me and Vesper, and hopefully we can get Beth finally in game, and Howler, maybe Matthew, he's been pestering to play, then perchance our little band may be able to best this creature. It's difficult when they do like 80, 90 damage. Will you look at that? Again, keeping the stream afloat. Thank you so much, Fluffy. I appreciate it. What's this? I don't know when they arrive. I've been busy with work and haven't seen any pings. Trust, I miss hanging out with everyone. Yeah, you know it. How about I send you a DM whenever a unofficial one occurs, and then you are more than welcome to attend. Hello, Mitzi. I hope you got the rest that you also need. That we both need. Yes. Catch up on the hours. It's important. Nah, where were we? Still haven't beaten the deer. Oh no, poor Reed. Reed's fine. Same, her nap would be nice. Nice, wouldn't it? Wonder if I make the camera go closer. Oh no, I got the Benedict Cumberbatch profile. I did not notice that until now. Cannot unsee it. I'll try to help out Beth today to make it work. Best of luck. I hope you get it working. Well, I hope he gets it working. I don't know what is causing his game not to behave, really. What could it be? I don't speak much English as Curenzo, but I try to understand what's going on. What language do you speak, friend? You post on Instagram the comment yaps 3 times a week. What? My goodness. Money from the science team. Why, thank you. Was it because I have a tie? Like this sort of makes me one of them. You need to play the game Abiotic Factor hard. I keep on telling you. I'd consider getting Valheim, but I would have too many games I don't play enough, which is true. Vesper and I and Biff actually have some stuff that we recently got that we don't play. There's New World, which is dead. There is Dark Tide, which we haven't gotten back into. Me, Fluffy, and Beth, we have Aliens Fire Team Elite, and then yeah, there's quite a lot now that I think about it. Oh my. Research funding, Mr. Freeman. Yeah, thanks, Art. Gosh, so nice to have you. In Valheim, by the way, Art, I don't know if Fluffy took any screenshots, but all of our VR chat Abbies, they're in game. It's pretty cool. We even got the fist bones working and everything. Abiotic Factor is on my wish list, so I can grab it when it goes on sale. Well worth it. Made by a very passionate team. I'd love that, replies Batty Salis to my hangout thing. It'll help a lot. I always check direct pings. AKA Miss Salis here has been really eager to go hang out with the rest of us. But does not want to intrude, or feel pushy. I gotcha. Are we even friends? Hope we are. Rook says, I had a lot of fun sailing iron between bases. They can't be portal, which is true. We do need to have a logistic system going on, don't we? My goodness, all our precious resources and whatnot. Hmm, I'm sure we can find a way. Oh yeah, I watched Fluffy stream, replies Iron for a bit. Very cool that those can be imported, yes, with a bit of effort and Unity know-how, it is most possible. Imagine a survival crafting game, but you have your own avies in there, running around. Oh yeah, I should take a screenshot with everything in the frame. Later, when we go log in. I plan on having a lot of games today. Well, game time. Ah, the custom Avi imports for Dead Ass Disco, huh? I know, I've seen a Noma Beast kicking butt there. That's pretty cool. I expect species with hooves should do higher kicking damage. And about luck, says Beth. Hopefully my luck will be better today. Beth, I wish you nothing but the best. By nothing but the best, it means we have a whole team on standby for technical support. I really wonder why it's not working. Maybe if we simply replicate these 1:1 as to how Fluffy and Howler has it, and then perchance we could eliminate the problem. It just ain't the same without saying, well, you there. Hello, Haxiom. Do you remember this spot? I took a rather nice photo of you here. I believe it was like this. You were looking outside towards the rain, probably the swaying of the leaves. Yes. Hi, Axiom. Oh, this worked. Yes. Cozy calm. You know, I've been seeing a recent uptick in people doing the cinematic shots, as I would call it, right? In VR chat. And that makes me happy, right? So I said, I can't just keep things stale. I gotta see how I can have more diversity in what I do. Hello, Vespa. I didn't know you were there. Come here. Late reply, but you called me out. Bat is like, oh man, I really want to hang out with
Alright.
cabin crew. But how do I do it? I'm not like super deep friends with them. I feel you. No worry. Next chance I get, I will message you directly. Don't worry, okay? I'm not super cool. I'm just a regular person. Hi, Ves. You wanna
Hi.
sit here or here? Here. Wanna try sitting on the railing, see if it works?
Yeah, I'll find out. Oh. Maybe not.
There you go. And
Nope.
then lock yourself with Go Go
Yes.
Loco.
Yeah, I'm gonna call this good enough.
Match eye high. I'll just have to use some camera tricks to fit properly in this world. You heard nothing, chat. There you go. Your butt is clipping through the railings. Come on a bit more. Okay, and then what you gotta do is you gotta play space here a teeny tiny bit. Drag yourself. Past the trees. Come on. A bit more. A bit more. There we go. Perfect. This time we can have Vesper in frame. Yes, as you may
Yes.
notice, we are by the house plants. Now, how do I make my third pin creative? Ah, that's the challenge, isn't it? Hmm, like this. There we go. That works. Probably. Gosh, you're so high up. So what we're gonna do is
Probably
we're
because I'm
gonna
sitting on the rail.
we're gonna roll the camera a bit like this. Oops. Do this. This has been the topic of discussion on my most recent video, the thigh highs. Unless this works like this. Okay. You want to know something cool?
Hmm.
Are you able to face there outside? Like 180?
I don't think I. Hold on. Let me just.
You know the seal meme? Yes, precisely. There we go. This is much better. Now I can keep this level. Ah, there. Let's just have Vespers pause by the bushes. I've never done this series of shots before, so this is gonna take a while. Also, what is up with the camera? It's not rendering the Vesper. Stay space up. Your thighs are clipping.
Oops.
Of course, you want to make things look nice, right?
Yep.
There you go. That's super cool
Sorry, getting on
dramatic
the
shot.
listening right for a second. Sorry.
There we go. This warrants a side shot. Okay. So, where were we? Seems Batty Salas has been wanting to go hang out with us. What do I think? I think she's pretty cool. She doesn't have that
Yeah, I think she's.
annoying aura that some other people have. You know how when you meet people for the first time, and or the second time, and then you can immediately tell that they're.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Normally it takes like 2 encounters before you finally realize.
Two
Oh,
encounters,
wait,
yes.
they're not someone I exactly click with.
Most definitely. Hello, fish. Fish chat. My goodness, that's the name of my aquarium. They have there's like 300 fish there. And it's an aquarium only this wide. I call them I'm creatively chat. But yes. Okay, where were we? I decided to reboot my PC since it's been up for a month. Hopefully that may fix it. Maybe we have some weird VPN routing firewall thingamajig going on, Def. Maybe that's the root of our problems. Gosh, it's a little toasty here, isn't it? I may need to adjust my ventilation later. Also, hello, Connor. PC too full of electricity. Needs a discharge, probably. Now, what happened to me that's new the past day or so? Let me think. Nothing much, really. We saw each other 2 days ago, didn't we? The nice Monday stream. What was the funny topic that was discussed? It was not ketchup free, it was something else. Tip of my tongue, I can't quite recall. Why, if it isn't was. Hello, cool African dog. Nah, I run without fire. I suppose we can cross that out of the list. Ketchup post. I remember that GIF I posted over at General. That was more than just ketchup pre. It's a sizable amount of H2O flowing out. Oh my gosh. This is nice. Sometimes you just wanna relax and chill, enjoy the ambience of the place. Hard not to. So I need to find a way to get the rain shader. I hate you to remind me of that. It's just the Heinz ketchup bottle, like, and then it's just like a whole glass or two of water coming out, and then the little poot of ketchup itself.
Seems like expired ketchup.
Oh, ooh! It was so
It's
much
still just
liquid.
watery.
Imagine you have a nice sandwich prepared, Art, right? Just, you got your omelette, you got your this and that on top, and then it's just ruined by a big slosh of water. Yee. Ketchup water, yummy. I wouldn't be surprised if Wask takes like, you know, an experimental schlop of it. Dogs are naturally curious, aren't they? It's like the dog when you try to give them lemons,
Oh.
they're gonna no. Yes.
Man. Raspberry is a pretty good example of that, actually. My mom loves her sparkling water, right? So she left a bottle out, as she always does, and it just, you know what? I'll let Crosby try some because there's like no flavoring in it and all that. Poured it in a bowl, set it on the floor. Okay, Crosby, come here, come here. I got some fancy water for you. Lapped a good bit of it up and then made the
Oh
face.
no, something carbonated for the dog. You're supposed to shake it first, so the ketchup mixes with the thick stuff. Yes. Ketchup and mustard are the condiments most likely to betray you. Thankfully, I have yet to experience mustard water.
I mean, how often do you use mustard in your life anyway?
That's true. It's so rare. The only real times I experience mustard is probably sandwiches I buy in some grocery store, some overpriced hole in the wall.
Yeah. Meanwhile, besides you're like me, you're living independent, so it's not like you have a whole double-sized fridge full of food to feed 4 other people, including you.
Almost
So
definitely.
we've
My
got
fridge is the
condiments
hotel
inside
fridge.
one side of the door.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, mine. Meanwhile, mine's just okay. One side of the door is for salad dressings. They is like ketchup, other condiments, and all that. Other door is like, say, butter, milk, drinks.
The ketchup
And-
door storage.
Yeah, we don't use the mustard or the ketchup too often. So every time you grab it out to use it, you gotta shake it up before you use it. Otherwise, you're gonna get the mustard or ketchup pee.
Ketchup pea. Speaking of which, Beth replies to Wask, but what if you like the ketchup pre? You know what? That's fair. That's fair. Do you know dogs like licking up weird substances and liquids? I remember when I was visiting the province in Mayan. Like, there's a lot of kids running around playing, snot faced. And then one of them sneezed, right? And like a whole net of snot just flew towards the concrete. And then there was an enthusiastic neighborhood dog. End of story. I might get banned. But yeah, that's peace. Two and two together. Wash, please don't tell me you. Yes, okay. What's this? Pobre perro. Who's poor? Tartar sauce can be a little sketchy sometimes. I recently saw this recipe about spicy honey tartar sauce. It's like a DIY thing. It was fantastic. Something that you dip like freshly cooked breaded fried chicken, right? Mm. Wask replies, I'm a bit more civilized than that these days. You know,
Good.
what matters is the change, right? People change, that's great. We don't look at one's past. Not much.
I mean, to be entirely fair, we were all kids once.
You were
We
all
all
kids
did some
once.
pretty funny and stupid things.
Most definitely. I remember Matthew sharing his Argentinian childhood. It was an exciting tale about balloons being filled with things you're not supposed to put into balloons and tossing it at other people. And smashed mailboxes too. The funny balloons, yes. That definitely was not Nutella.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the pool party, trust Gabarite to fill the balloons, not Matthew.
It's
Mm-mm.
my balloons will be filled with gaseous substances, right? Not whatever
Water balloons.
Matthew like.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-mm. Oh my god, the balloons. Hello, Bumper. How goes your rainy commute? We are still kids as well. Back or knees might not agree though. Hold on, I see somebody by the bushes. Oh, hey, Cinder, what's up? Welcome to the stream. Nice to see you. What's new? What? What? Oh, shoot. Sorry. My overlay is like right there. So, whoops. Hi there, buddy. I'm gonna let Cinder breathe. So the whole 5, 6 decimal, zero in between is gonna like, simmer for 5 minutes. I saw how you were looking at that fried chicken picture. What? Look. You see, due to my investigative nature, Vesper, I actually visited a bunch of streamers in which I saw Bombar, maybe Cinder, or people that were affiliated. And then, of course, I asked so about Cinder's verticality, is he really, I see. Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. What I was referring to was Cinder's absolutely big-hearted nature. Mm-mm. Especially the ones you find on the street. Oh my god, the video. You know how the long balloon used to make the funny poodles with your mom? Yeah. Hmm. I don't know how well I executed that joke, but those that got it, congratulations. I would never learn how bitter and spicy diesel tastes otherwise. I've always thought that diesel was like dull and oily. Not that I would know. Hello, Nord. A pleasure seeing you here, mighty Drago. That's the funniest emote I've seen. It's Cinder fuming. Hello, Evident 9. Turkey baster. Yep, that is what contained the mustard water. How's your day been? Oh, absolutely swell. Thanks for asking. You see, look at my position right here. I I understand now. This is his POV. Right? Right? I didn't say anybody. I didn't say who it was. I didn't say who it was. Right? So, this is the Kevin Hart perspective. Like, hey, buddy, I'm a trained professional. Did you know?
It's Kevin Hart the Rock. This.
Oh my goodness. Hello, Strutsky. We were not making fun of Cinder just now. Just FYI. The Kevin Hart perspective. Highly developed neck muscles. We're talking about Wask. Oh, absolutely, it was Wask. You know, dog just stick all fours and really low to the ground, more horizontal than vertical. In the four-paw walking stance. You and Vesper are adorable. Thank you. Don't worry, you'll get used to looking out. Hmm. Cinder is low to the ground, bounding on all fours. Hmm. You know, maybe Cinder is simply blessed with the trait of being affected by the planet's gravity more than the rest of the populace. It's kind of like a quirk in My Hero Academia, but it's a passive one. It's been a while since I've been standing up. Look, I'm just like this. I'm just cutting the camera off because for some reason it's not rendering the rest of the wood that I'm leaning on. Ah, Geb, how are you leaning on the wood so well, despite being able to walk and stand? You know, it's simple. You know those little DIY step ladders? I had to prep one up, just like that. Yes. Ah, yes, creativity. The things I do for stream. What, Gabby? You bust out a little ladder just so you could look appropriate in the game? Yes. Ladders, huh? You see, in my old apartment, Cinder, I was able to do this properly because I had a setup that allowed me to lean. Lean solo, I could even do this, where I would rest my chin on top of the railings, but yes, it makes for a very cute effect when you do it. Apparently, Cinder was looking at doing something similar to this, where I could lean on something. A little bit of effort goes a long way. Cinder's an ankle biter. Beth says, the plus side of being short at high altitude, most people are short. You may function better. That kind of makes sense, right? Less air to fill up a small balloon. Or like the brain is higher up from the ground, so it's more difficult for the blood to supply. There's something along those lines. Give it to Gib to think about the details. I'm simply trying to be more creative. If anything, it's Cinder and the rest of the people I've been spying on VR chat that's pushing me to not just sit at my butt when it comes to the shots. Next thing you know, we're trying to outdo each other so much. I'm gonna go see Cinder. Like, oh hey Chad, good morning. And then it's Cinder and then Bombard. They're on a tandem bicycle, right? And it's being tracked properly. That'd be so funny. Well, Fish, how about you tune in a little bit? I tend to go read what chat is saying as to keep my engagement 100%. I'm sure you'll catch up the conversation, don't worry. Hard sense. I remember reading at one point that people who grow up at high altitudes end up having more red blood cells to compensate for the lower oxygen. Oh, is that how it works? I see. Ard apparently misses being up in the mountains. Takes about 3 generations to have high altitude to have zero effect on you. Either 3 generations or you live an extra 100 years. And then you're gonna adapt. Is that supposed to be Cinder, Stratsky? Oh yeah, speaking of Cinder, it was unfortunate that during his last stream, which I happened upon, the microphone was not agreeing. Pray tell, what was the hardware that was the cause of this fault? All I heard was like Bluetooth microphone. My tiny fish brain can't keep up that well. Ah, well, I understand. For newcomers, this must be a bit confusing. You see, my conversations predominantly work with my familiarity with my chat. Which inadvertently become my friends. A lot of people advise that streamers shouldn't really befriend their chat, right? Like, you need to separate your business and your chat from your personal life. But but that's a little bit blurred when it comes to things like VR chat, for example. Oh, that's cool. I can hold on to it and it's there. I got wireless earbuds for VR. The dongle for that was plugged right next to the dongle for my DJI Mic Mini, so there was interference. Oh, I see. I'm using a DJI Mic Mini too. But for my audio solution, I went to AliExpress. I bought like the $3 wired earbuds thing that plugs into one of the Quest Pro's 3.5mm jacks. It's blurred when you have good pole architecture. Sorry, no beans in this particular shot. It's a little difficult to showcase those when I'm standing.
I mean, I'm
Stratsky
the one
immediately
sitting.
leave. That is true. So if we just pan out a little bit. There we go. Just enough to see the important things. Fluffy. Gosh, thank you again. You know, I feel like Fluffy here is the car that's following me during one of those races when I'm on a bicycle. And then there's a car, and then he's like giving me water through the window.
He gets the crap he's gonna throw it at you.
Yeah. And then I try to catch it, and then I veer off a cliff as always. Yes. There's also different levels of friends, says Salas. So I've made from streaming years ago are still around to this day, and some aren't. It's the way we interact with media. That's true. I've surprisingly made a bunch of good friends ever since what? Mid of last year.
Yeah.
All good people so far. Some of the others are still in the equate. Of course, as you said, Salas, people they grow on you at different rates. It's an individual thing, right? Sometimes individual A, takes like a month or two before you really vibe. The others you vibe on day one. Now, I don't want to release a list on who's higher or lower, but I'm sure you can tell who I like and I don't. That I'm still taking more time to getting used to, right? Which I'm considering getting a tennis ball asset that I could just throw for you know who.
Yes, looks like I have more homework to do then.
And then the ball just drops, you know, when you try to fool the dog. Oh. Okay, I'm gonna look. I'm gonna find one. I'm gonna see if that's possible. Yeah. Runs into a. It's gonna be so funny though. Geb teasing all the dogs in chat. Yeah, I mean. Huh? Huh? And then the dogs are like, they do the thing where they squat. Bayonetta blow kiss. The wait, what was? I don't remember. It's so long since I finished Bayonetta. One of my favorite female protagonists, definitely. Why? Because she's hot and she's strong. She hasn't been touched by the funny DEI crew that uglifies everything. Bayonetta 2 is my favorite game. I wish there was Bayonetta 2 over at the PC. I don't remember if it released. It was only the first game I believe that I managed to play to completion. It reminds me a lot of Devil May Cry, just with more flair. Strong, you say? Yes, you need to look at Bayonetta, Beth. She's gonna grow on you, I promise. One of my best friends was an acquaintance for about a year. She's in VC with me watching stream. Hello, Salus's friend. Well, best friend, sorry. So we grew from acquaintance to being less polite and more funny into the friend part, and now the best friend where all the icky and funny stuff is being talked about. Everything under the sun. Congratulations. You see, Bayonetta is tall, has a funny hairdo, hot glasses, and she has high heels, right? But the heels, they're guns. And the way she fights is she does like little spinning kicks and whatnot where she shoots everybody around her with it. But there's more to her powers. I don't want to spoil it. Not once have I summoned my coin, have I? I wish it was on PlayStation. Was it not? I do believe it was a console exclusive. No, it was on the Nintendo system, wasn't it? Like, um, you have to make me remember. Let's say her hair is very so versatile. In fact, it reminds me of Midna's hair. Yes, from the Twilight Princess. The first game was, but 2 and 3 were just Nintendo. Ah, such a waste. I also really liked the soundtrack that was playing. Well, I was playing the game. I, for one, am shocked Geb is recommending the video game lady with the long legs and gun. Oh, right? Shocking. That what Geb is into. Oh my. Bayonetta. So nice, so good. She's kind of like a Kratos, but like like in the same league of action RPG heroes, right? I've heard nothing but good things about the games aside. I haven't played it. I'm not one to really recommend playing old games if you're a stickler for the new ones, but Bayonetta is actually a good playthrough. And this is the first game I'm talking about. Have you seen Devil May Cry? The first game. It looked like butt. It was super awesome, cool SSS butt though, but it was very dated in appearance. Then again, it was for the PlayStation, so understandably so. Oh, it should be Wednesday for you guys, huh? Midweek hump day. Which means you have work tomorrow, don't you? No? Last
Day
free
after.
day? Oh, the day after.
Yeah.
Friday. Okay. Which means you and I
I
can
mean,
catch
hey,
up
that
on
means I get
games.
paid tomorrow. Yeah.
Hey, order the thing.
Yep.
Nice.
What are the two things?
Order the two things? Oh, yeah, yeah. The one's the funny. Yeah, I know what you mean. The. Yes. One's
That's
like
Papa
a
Chapo.
rectangle. Yeah, it's a secret. Shh. Wednesday in it. I wish they'd make Valkyria Chronicles 2 and 3. I love Valkyria. Valkyria Chronicles. Why? It's like a tank game with squad management. And it's a JRPG. On the topic of old games, ever since we talked about it, I've been thinking about playing Command and Conquer Generals again. The sound clips are running through my head. Foreign devils! We build for China. Obviously, I think you know my favorite nation there. The Angry Mob. That was my favorite unit there. Just a bunch of angry villagers, right? That you could eventually give AKs and Molotovs. That's very accurate. Saying it so casually, game. Which one? I played it to death too. I even put like all the funny mods on it. We'll bury them. Expanding China's borders. Now you're making me want to play it again. They can never release a game like that again. Yeah.
Especially not with today's internet.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yes. If it isn't lit, greetings. How are ya? A pleasure seeing you here on stream. Hump day. Oh, I don't know. I think that came from Vesper. You're the one who taught me that term, right? Wednesday's hump day.
Yeah. Yeah, Wednesday's hump day because it's the middle of the work week for most. So basically, it's the whole hump you gotta get over to finish out your week.
I got distracted for 1 second.
Distracted for 1 second, okay.
1 second. Maybe 1 point. I. Hmm. Hmm. The angry mob was. It was OP. Think about it. It was multiple units counting as one. Did you hear about Hytale? Says Salis. It's allegedly a new Minecraft. I've seen a bunch of streamers. I've seen OK Donuts, the snake, stream it. I dig it because the last time Vesper and I played Minecraft, it was the Prominence RPG mod pack, right? So we had classes, we had races, we had stats, which was awesome. And I am frankly a big fan of that sort of system. Anything to make your character really unique, not simply because of the gear. The camel commercial. Oh yeah, you're old, Beth. Camel commercial. Man, I remember the Marlboro commercials, right? Like the cowboy and whatnot. I'm doing all right, replies Liz. We just finished eating dinner, but I've been busy today. Busy. Well, don't burn yourself out so much. Knowing you, you always sound tired whenever we're in VC, but not tired enough to not share some funny and wholesome things on Instagram. I remember the sandwich made of real, organic, high protein Wrigley things. What else can I recall? It's not the OS. I should make an Instagram. You should. You see, Litz and Fluffy, we always like exchange random crap with each other. Right? Oh yeah, it's more RPG based. I think it'll be sick. I should check it out sometime. But I did hear that it has quite the number of bugs. It's yet to be a refined experience from the developers themselves. Never really stopped me from trying early access zero point 0.1 version games though. Axiom, the last thing you DM'd me was a picture of a feral looking dragon with my color scheme, with teeth and tongue and maw. Like, okay. Right. Oh, I'm getting hungry. I wonder what I should eat after stream. Yes, I'm gonna eat a little bit after stream. And I'm gonna play. I should make an Instagram other than my personal one. It's just fine art. Unless you want to take fancy photos of your VR chat self and make that the account instead. And that would probably be a valid reason to have a separate one. What you said, yes, a dragon. And what they imagine dragon is, so basically you. Right. I'm trying to remember the rest of the image, but it was definitely something about eating things. Yes, a lizard. A funny thing came up actually, Vesper. I was reading my comments over at that one, so the clock app, right? And then they said, you don't have horns, you don't have wings. Doesn't that make you a drake? Is this accurate, chat, for you dragon enthusiasts? A drake. I don't know, it sounds... I don't mind being called lizard, but lizard is a very broad umbrella. The dragons kind of fall under it too, right?
Yeah, true.
I'm not super dragon. But then again, look at the Nardo Dragon. They do not look draconic. At least very slightly to me. Right? I can't quite place my finger on it. Is it the funny snout, the funny shape, the fish teeth?
Might be the shape.
Yeah, it's a shame.
But they're also like considered like fluffy dragons too.
Oh, is that so?
At least from what I've seen.
Maybe it's because of Axiom. He's given me such a strong impression about what Nardos are because he's permanently one, right? That I see all other Nardo dragons as Axiom. Hence, they all give me like, oh, this is just a goofy creature, right? Draung could admit a Drake could describe a game. Minus the feral part though. If I were to Google, nah, I'll do that later. Drake would be close, says Alice. But I thought they could still have horns. That's true, don't they? It's more of the wings, right? And their flight capabilities. What is a worm? No, worm is like no legs, or just the front legs, right?
No legs, just wings.
Oh, no legs, just wings. Okay. Like that funny snake in Neopets. I'm trying to remember. Wait, do you know what
I
Neopets
think.
is?
Yes,
Okay, okay.
I had an account for 2 years before Flash.
Yeah, this is this snake that flies. It's so cute.
Mm-hmm.
Wyvern. Wyverns are the ones who has their front limbs as just the wings, right? To be honest, most Nardos I know are goofy, so uh, I see. Wow, Neopets, that takes me back. It has been quite a while, hasn't it? Female Nardos are always so elegant. That's the thing. I have yet to run into an actual female Nardo that I have to hold conversations with. I have seen some of them that looks really nice. They're aesthetic. The girly Nardos actually work quite okay. They're not overdone. Unlike I don't know. Not let's just say the aesthetic of the more e-girl oriented furry abbies like Foxy Paws is not the one that I am after there. Not saying the avatars aren't great, but it's not for me. You see, when it comes to female abbies, some people think that the more butts and the more chest you have, the hotter you are, right, Beth? But that isn't always the case. I've seen some avatars with like this is the chest, it's that large, and then the waist is this, and then the butt is equally like that. They look like an hourglass to an extreme. I cannot unsee the physique of those like women that are fat, they're obese, and then they get this like liposculpting thing, right? It's where they get liposuction on select parts of their body, just so they could look curvy. That's just, I cannot unsee it. Not a big fan of squishing somebody's arms or legs, and it feels like a bag of beans. You know what I mean? Or ground beef and pork. Because cellulite has this effect, right? It's not smooth. It looks. What's the proper term? It's that particular texture. Imagine a sack full of corn, like corn kernels. Aster was worth a try. Oh yeah, that's hey, we tried, right? Maybe it just wasn't the bike for you. VRC bars. What about VRC bars? There you can find female Nardo. I don't know, man. Most of the people I see that are in bars, they're there for a reason. That's all I can say.
Yeah, at least from my experiences, they're there,
My
but they're there to get
experiences
wasted.
and secondhand reports. I'm not a big fan of the whole drinking crowd if they're strangers. If they're friends, yeah, I tolerate them. It's okay.
Yeah, friends are tolerable. It's just Otherwise, if you're drunk, stay to your little corner. Don't get sick anywhere. Make sure that you're hydrated, but don't bother me.
I'm scared about meeting new people. There's a reason why Beth is always just in his corner.
Yeah.
Ah, come on, Beth. You've been expanding your crowd, right? Look at you in the Palace of Popcorns group. Apple says, yeah, some people just make it big and ugly. Things need to be balanced. It is unbalanced indeed. Magos, I don't like it. Look at Vesper's Abbey. This is the manifestation of my personal taste, right? It's nice and modest, proper. Nice firm leggings.
But you know.
Nord goes, Bev has changed his looks in VR chat. Draung is dubious. Bev's Abby does look at, it's leaning on the very handsome side, right? But we tried making him bald, but he just has such a good looking face. Yeah. When we look at you, right, and then there's like a sparkle. Shing. VR chat bars, group worlds are fun, to be honest. I wish I could speak on the experience, Axiom, but I have yet to go to one. So I can't say neither they're bad or good. Alden's new Abbey is basically a perfectly round ball. It is, isn't it? Like an 8-ball. With like pretty eyes attached. Bombar says.
Oh my god, it's like painting eyes on a boy.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Commute went sideways, but it's over. Have a good rest of stream. Sideways? The bus went. I hope that's not the case, but alright, I'll catch you around, Bombar. Thanks for hanging out. Gosh, you could have just said hello and like skedaddly do, like how I do on streams. I need to add the sparkle effect on my head. 100%. I know there's an asset for it. It's probably one of Rival's free shader effect thingies. It's a particle. Axiom can hook you up with that. Maybe make something DIY. What day is it today? Oh my god, I have to pay my bills today. It's the 15th! Ooh, I need to type that down.
Oh.
Ooh, no, sir. Let me type that down. Because my landlord is really iffy about... Yeah, right after stream, I'm gonna go straight. Okay, there we go. Sorry, I had to note that. My landlord. Look, I paid off the extra electrical thing, a couple of $100. Now I'm simply waiting for the email about the restoration fees that I gotta pay. Big gulp on that. Beth, you sound and look cheery and jolly, says Waffle. And who's great that gets along with people. Now he does. He's such a swell guy. One of the nicest, actually. While being cool. Beth is Santa. Like an uncle adjacent. But I need to be on my rectangle to avoid eye contact with strangers. Oh no. Hey, should go do your whatever you were supposed to do that required you to commute. Rotund means black. Yes. Wow, when you look at that, there's a bunch of viewers. Hello, viewers. I'm Kim. This is Vesper. He's the Bond.
Hey.
Companion. Everything. in between.
This isn't the actual height difference. I'm just sitting on a banister.
I'm just yes, yes. Look, look, look. Okay, I'm standing up, and then Vesper's leaning, sitting on the thing. This is a better idea. See, there. Oops. Why, if it isn't Cinder, greetings. Hi, yeah. How you doing? I thought you were busy. Oh, sorry, there's a camera. I thought you were busy doing things. Beth is like the uncle on family meetups who's the cool guy and gives bad life advice. And he can totally get away with it too. He's just gonna laugh, do his signature laugh. He's just gonna do that, right? And you can't blame him. I was and am busy doing things, as in, okay, okay. Gotcha. Jeff says, bad life advice is the best way to learn. Pain is a good teacher. Gosh, thank goodness I went to over 6 workshops in the pain department when it comes to crashing. Hmm. Uh-oh. Headset battery is low. Why? Because it was never plugged in, ya genius. There you go. I had a nap and I'm still sleepy. Coffee, here I come. Also, hello everyone. I see Matthew is recharged for our adventuring that's gonna happen after stream. Mmm. You give the best advices. Compliments Fluffy to Beth. Mm-hmm. Valhalla. Oh, it's so fun. Did Yes, adventure. You see, we were playing Valheim, a modded one. Very, interesting. It's difficult, that's for sure. In VR, let's see. Can't make promises. I'm most definitely gonna go eat first after stream. I don't understand how you guys got your abbeys in it. You see, Beth made a handy dandy guide on how to do it. Pretty cool, actually. Imagine playing the game in VR. That'd be fantastic. Ooh wee. When I yawn, that usually signals when I'm starting to get low on energy. Lorenzo says, if you had the ability to speak or understand another language, which one would it be? I want to learn how to speak Chinese. Oh no, the Gebyon. Somebody misses the comfy bed. I 100% do. I've been standing up since earlier. The entire stream, I have not sat down. After I get working from Modman, I may make another guide. Yeah. We need to get it working 100%. Go lay down. No, it's okay. I'm good. Leave stream open. I'll just leave it to Vesper. Vesper, you take the helm.
Oh no.
Can I laser my camera 3 from here? Uh, there you go. Yeah. Ah. Oh my goodness, my vertebrae are thanking me. Vesper, impromptu, 30 seconds, take over. He can do it, Vesper.
Oh my gosh. Well, hello, Seal. Uh, 5 minutes later, we hear snoring. I don't know. I think I'd wake him before that. Vesper's channel now for 30 seconds, huh? Sure, why not?
Oh my god.
I'm doing okay so far. Not a very eventful day so far, honestly. Just woke up, little bit of schoolwork, dogs needed tending to, ate a little bit of breakfast, and I am golden.
Now all of the revenue goes to Vesper. Oh, whoa, whoa, hold on. Hi there, chat. I'm back. What's up? Greetings. You did a great job. Fantastic.
Biblical greed.
Biblical grip. I am anything but
I'm
greedy.
joking.
I simply persuade people to unburden themselves of the weight of their coin. Yes. Hello, Seal. How are you? Sounds like you're getting in your steps. You're standing. Oh, yeah, yeah. Let's see if I can stand the whole I mean, I am leaning, though. So, like, 10% of my body weight is on this funny contraption I have underneath my arms. Dang,
I
right
have to
before I
do
hit
that for
donate.
like 6 hours
Yep,
straight.
yep. So, yeah, say good luck, Vesper Takeover. I'll come back when Beth's...
Damn, okay.
When Beth works his magic.
Damn, okay. Looks like I'm taking back over.
Got this. Come on, Vesper.
Yeah, no, I'm
Appease
not
the
letting
crowd.
that guy fall asleep.
For free? It's the other way around. You bait them with it,
One
and then
time
they
for
tip,
free.
and then you show it. Now they're not gonna tip anymore.
Oh dear God. The first one's free.
Yeah, I can doom scroll.
For Vesper.
There you go. See, you're already successful as a streamer, Vesper.
I'm already successful. I
Congratulations.
sat here
Because
quietly
of that.
panicking.
You deserve like a new camera angle. So let's do
Lucille
this.
says, when was the last time you had some store-bought instant ramen? I had it tonight. So good. I'd have to say maybe... A few weeks ago, actually, now that I think about it. My dad went and bought like 2 protein packs of ramen because he used to eat 2 packs. And he just realized, oh, wait, right. I only need 1 now. So he just like, okay, hey, Vesper, you want the other one? So I took it. It's pretty good.
That's such a swell guy.
And,
Go ahead. Floor is yours. Beth paid for 5 minutes of
don't-
your time.
quite remember what flavor it was in specific, but I think it was like miso and chicken flavor. It was pretty good.
Didn't that?
So I
Congratulations.
don't really have a specific flavor preference when it comes to ramen, but like I'm not very picky with my food in general, honestly, anyways, so I'm always willing to go out, explore, try new things.
For Vesper's smiley face.
Also, thank you. I am lagging, but still, thank you. Thank you.
How does it feel,
Thank you, because
Vesper?
it really does help a lot. Honestly, I'm still a little nervous, but I'm glad people are enjoying me being here.
Thank you for tacking on the last part. Yes, we enjoy having you here. Look, Beth, you wouldn't have fans if they didn't like you, right?
Yeah, I'm just not probably the one who was most confident in streaming, especially was, well, I'm lagging right now. I can't really see anything.
Fluffy, thank you. My goodness.
There we go. Thank you. Let's see. Nordex asks, Vesper, what's your favorite comic, if I may ask? Well, I'm a bit of a Marvel nerd, so you can't really go wrong with the Spider-Man comics anyways. I really liked reading the Spider-Noir series. I mean, heck, I actually got pretty excited when they announced the whole Spider-Verse series and all that as well.
Thank
so
you,
it was just
Art.
like, oh my gosh.
See, it's so easy when you're a girl.
$5.99.
My God.
Is it really that easy?
I swear it is. Oh, if only my globules were on my chest, not down here. But go on.
Let's see. Also, thank you so much for the support. It really does mean a lot to me and Geb, because it does help a lot. Oh, not Beth Jesus asks, what is your favorite food, Vesper? Might not be too much of a surprise, but as of lately, it's just been, well, some simple stuff like potatoes, vegetables, fruits. I'm not all that picky,
Yes.
but can't really go wrong with just a simple baked potato if you're really hungry.
That's true, Art. Oh, no. Okay, go on. I dare not interrupt the Vesper. No. You keep
Hi,
keep
Music
going.
Hog. Baked potato filled with cheese, says Matthew. I mean, yeah, right? Can't go wrong with a potato. You got the sour cream, you got the saltiness of the butter, maybe some bacon bits, some chives.
Oh. That's
Ba-
delicious.
and then they like, and you've got a nice cold drink on the side with your baked potato.
Iced tea. I know.
Nice
Such a
tea.
basic
Yeah.
drink. It's like ice cold. Oh man. You take over Geb's channel. Yes, she has for the next more XX minutes.
Oh my god. Of course I freeze. Pardon me a moment. There we go. All right. Cinder Collie says, Vesper, would you agree that Midwest equals mid-best? Yes and no, but yeah, I guess so. When you're talking about the good
Mid-best.
people here.
It's because of all the corn.
I mean, yeah, I cannot escape the corn. Hell, even my ears are yellow. There is no escaping the corn.
You're doing great, Vesper. You're doing great. I'm gonna go back and sit down.
Wow, okay.
I'll be your cameraman.
I am. Nordic says, I saw enough corn to last a lifetime when I visited the States. I know, right? Like, at least my state is like one of the top producers of corn out there, so we've got corn for
Corn
everything.
hub.
Livestock, sweeteners, food in general. Corenzo115 says, did you know that when you use something or lean on something, you're not actually doing so, since your body doesn't merge with the atoms of the objects? Because if you did that, you would practically fuse with the atoms of the object, becoming one with it? I mean,
Yeah, we
Yeah,
never really
basic-
touch anything, right? There's always just
yeah, we never really touch anything.
this thin layer of separation.
Mm-hmm. see. What is the weirdest use of corn you've seen in a dish? Have you ever heard of like the whole savory gelatins that were popular in like the 1960s? Like my great grandmother, when I was a small child, she would serve those, and it's just like hot dogs, cabbage, carrots, and all that, and a savory jello, and it's just. I would turn my nose at it and just like, sorry, Granny, I'm not hungry.
Great. Savory gelatin. Are you talking about like those canned chickens? And then this got like gelatin over it, and then you eat it?
Oh dear God, do not speak the unholy savory factors of the canned chicken.
Right,
Like those
right?
whole itty bitty canned chickens. It is disgusting. It's not like those canned chickens, no, but it is still like gelatin. Oh, okay, that's what it's called, the Jello salad. Mm-mm. Criminal
What?
crime.
That's my camera look. Look, the viewers increased to 67. You're doing great. That's plus 8.
Oh,
It's like a 20%
not
increase.
me. Sour warm yogurts.
Of Montenegro. Oh.
I mean, the closest I can get to that is just like these yogurt drinks. They're supposed to be like probiotic yogurt drinks called Yakult. There's like
Yakult's
some
great.
off friends and all that we sell around here as well. Like it's a little sour, but I enjoy it.
The sour warm yogurts of Montenegro.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Music Hog says, I searched for savory jello, but it's only like jelly spaghettios. Ew. I mean, yeah, that's part of it. That exists. A lot of the times the whole jello salad jellos are just like vegetables and meat and gelatin though. It's some people like it. I'm not one of them. He says, you know, if you visit Argentina, that word is a Greek first, not an insult. Gab.
What? What?
Louis Crisile says, normal salad has too much air. The elf folk like their food dense and stable. Jello's not shelf-stable, though, unless it's, like, powder
Dense?
form.
Dense and stable? I've
Dense,
never heard
yeah,
of that.
Have you ever had, like, a bowl of Jello, like,
Yeah.
plopped it out of the container and just smacked it, you know? It's dense. Fun to play around with, too, which got me in trouble a lot as a kid. It's just picking up with a spoon and just...
Oh my god. Oh. The jiggly jello,
When I
yeah.
say the
Oh.
only jiggle physics let me just say, the only jiggle physics I'm really a huge fan of at the moment, anyways, is just like Jello or something like that. Yes, the original jiggle physics before, well, VRChat even existed.
3D anime. Mm.
Ain't it lovely, Chat? Seeing a girl with long, luscious hair and a fluffy jacket just do the stretch. It looks great. I like when us men do it. Mm-mm.
Just doing one of your little experimental things, then, huh?
You're doing fantastic. That chat, she's doing great. I'm just gonna like be here
doing
and
my
not
best.
interrupt.
The only one that is the one time I ate a fermented pistachio, and I was living with parents, and my mother just I put some alcohol on my tongue and spit it. I mean, I've never had a fermented pistachio in my life anyway, so it's just. Were you gonna get like sick off of it or something? Like, really, I've eaten my fair share of expired food because let's be honest, kids don't read stuff before they put it in their mouths. I never really
Like
got
that
sick.
balloon. Matt, you know. Like, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, Ludicrous Seal asks, I love the cozy environment you guys are in. What's the place called? This is Cozy Calm. It's Quest compatible and PC compatible, so basically it's a good place to hang out with your friends.
I give you a breather. I give you a breather.
Exciting.
You're doing fantastic.
Not
You're
fully.
natural.
I'm just doing my best.
Right? All it takes is a change of camera focus and voila. It's a very pretty world, like a very pretty host.
Thank you.
Oh, but I'm kneeling here. Mike is still yours.
You sure about that?
Yes, think of you as
'Cause you
that
know I like
palate
having you by my
cleanser,
side.
right? Like
Yeah.
they're so tired of eating lasagna. You're offering like the ice cream or something. Oh, Gabby's
so
back.
Vesper, we're gonna see a second channel. I don't think so. Even if I do, it's just not gonna be the same avatar or the same spots, because Gab doesn't really do co-streaming. Number one. Number two, that's just if I ever get the confidence for that.
How about I handle all the stream back end and
Yeah, I prefer
shenanigans here,
him
so
to-
you just sit and be
yeah,
pretty there.
handle
Mhm.
it. Yeah, I'm more comfortable streaming with someone else by my side anyways, you know.
Oh, but Vesper does help me a lot. Don't get me wrong, Jan. So much.
Yeah, and I'm more than happy to. Scar Eye says, I'm here to steal beans and have a good time. Nope. Not taking mine. Musicog says, the best streamed, I would probably have a 50-day streak. Thank you.
You would have very loyal fans. Super cool.
It's a good position since I can go for. Can I speak to your manager? And there's Vesper. Oh. I am not in a managerial position. I am just here to show people out the door.
More of an executioner than anything. It's true what Beth said. Confidence is indeed a learned skill. Just practice and you feel
Yeah.
better about it. But
Yeah,
hey, you're
true,
coming along
true.
naturally.
I
Not
mean,
to put down
yeah.
other content creators. I've seen others who's not doing such a great job in their streams, and you're doing stellar.
I'm glad to hear. Because I used to be the quiet kid back in high school. I'm gonna be honest. I would just sit in the corner, not really talk to anyone, and just mind my own.
Mm-mm.
I wasn't very social back then, but hey, at least I'm doing
Now
better
you
now.
are brave. I'm so proud of her. Chan. She's really come a long way. You may not know the details of the story, but uh, she was on the mark when she said that she was the quiet kid, pretty much non-existent, be there but not there sort of individual. Now
Yeah,
you very
let's just
much
say I
have a
made easier
presence.
friends with. Yeah. Let's just say I very much made friends with the teachers much easier than I would with other kids.
Look at Matthew's comment there. It's true, right? We kind of made Matthew very much more outspoken
yeah.
and confident. Yeah, Matthew, shucks. Look at you. You're having so much fun now.
Yeah. And to think, first meetup you were sitting there, all shy.
I
made
was
it.
trying to hook you up with that pretty, like, bird lady in the bar. I remember that. Like, "Hey, Matthew, look. You're an owl and she's got feathers. I think it's gonna work." And then we realized the bartender was taken. And it's like, "Ah." Great way to break the ice, huh?
hmm
It's wild how much fake it till you make it actually helps when it comes to confidence. The brain is so easily tricked. That's true. You just
Yeah, true.
have to think that you've actually made it, right?
I mean, hey, I went from an awkward, stuttery mess when I first joined into, well, here, calm, confident. I'm not necessarily freaking out like I would have before, you know? Musicot says, hey, I'm also the quiet one. The thing is that I'm still trying to talk to others, but I don't know how to start a freaking conversation. I mean, that's honestly not the hard part, honestly. Because, like, say you're in a classroom, you're in a public setting, say you recognize a character on their bag, or you like their shirt, you can just bring it up like, oh, hey, I'm sorry to be a bother, but I just couldn't help but notice your shirt, you know? It's such a nice color, looks really good on you. I wonder where you got it. And that's pretty much a good way to strike up a conversation.
Indeed.
Cinder Collie says, streaming does wonders for one's confidence and public speaking skills. I mean, yeah, true. Here I am talking to you
Just
without a script. Dark. I mean, here I am talking without a script, not really stuttering. And, well, I'm here. I'm not freaking out. So streaming, at least accompanying the streamer, has helped me get more confidence. So I'm not like sitting here panicking whenever I'm working my weekend job. Well, other than for obvious reasons, because it's retail, it's messy, there's a lot of people. But I've got enough social skills to where I can tolerate it. I can make it through my day.
Go on.
Hold on, I need a drink. I'm thirsty.
But you have a moment of privacy as you go. She goes through it. You should hydrate too, Chan.
I need to get a bigger water bottle.
Oh,
But I
mine
am
has a
back
straw.
now.
And mine makes like
Mine
funny.
does have a straw too. It's just one of those Starbucks cups though.
Oh, like
It's
the
not.
sippy
It doesn't have
thing.
the biggest capacity.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
It's just the tumbler with the straw in the middle.
Hello, sweet corn. Oh, we're trying to make Vesper take the spotlight here. Like, I'm curious how she's doing, doing what I do. She's doing great.
I need a drink. Story of the life. Man. And then the wandering Magus is chugging some flat cola.
Speaking of which, I'm gonna drink.
Honestly.
more, I think.
How would you describe the taste of flat cola, anyways? Because it's like so different in comparison to, well, when it's carbonated, you know.
Flat cola. It's like love that's lost
Flat
all its
cola.
romance. Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's pure sweet.
Hydration.
Banditcon says, yes, water. That's what I'm consuming. Nothing else. Well, I hope you know Monster doesn't exactly hydrate you the best. And sure, it's a liquid, but at the same time, the water content, in combination with all the minerals and stuff, that does include salt. You need to balance it out with some water as well. So just be aware of that, okay?
I come back. I had a hard time closing my bottle.
Oops.
Having fun with Vesper chat?
I'd hope.
There. Also, I noticed you keep on adjusting your headset. Have you
Yeah,
not
I
tightened it?
just keep adjusting it because the headphones and all that shift. That's all.
Oh, the A. Right.
Undercon says no, it does not. The caffeine does not hydrate at all. Exactly why you should drink some water with that. Because if you're drinking nothing but monsters, your kidneys aren't going to take it well. I've had some people tell me, oh, but you're denying your kidneys their purpose. You're preserving your kidneys.
We don't even need get just the. Yep, that's clearly the case.
Aw, but I like having them here.
Entertain them for today. Seeing my face 3 times a week, it gives like audience fatigue. It's a streamer thing. There you go. The zoom in thing work with best. Let's see.
Stress test the point of failure. Get Beth.
No, Beth's words has substance to it.
I mean, true, but like, stress test them too much. That's gonna be like a lot of medical expenses, you know. Medical care isn't cheap in the States, and insurance won't cover all of it. But that's just the harsh reality of it. Landicon says, someone who's diabetic, a monster is something I seldom get to have anymore. I mean, they do make the sugar-free ones, but at the same time, though, I could understand why. Because, like, you got all these things to monitor at the same time, like blood sugar levels, like, the foods you can have, the foods you can't have. Managing those blood sugar levels on top of actually measuring them, you know? There's a lot of things to carry around and consider when you're diabetic. Little Chris Seal says, I've got to make my kidneys work. If I gotta work a 9 to 5, then so do they. I mean, they're already working constantly anyways, because, you know, like, they're already filtering whatever you're drinking, whatever you're eating. So it's just... They're already working constantly. You have to add more stress on them. That. Bev says, "Hey, I got medical care through my job. I ain't using it. That's money left on the table." I mean, at the same time, though, money left on the table versus a slightly longer lifespan, you know? Because drinking, smoking, all of that, it's got to have like a negative effect on your health on the long term, you know?
Oh, shit.
So it's better to take care of yourself
They keep on streaming.
however you can,
It's
whenever
live.
you can, in the present time that you've got, you know? And I'm not the one to lecture you on what you can and cannot do. You are a grown adult. I'm not here to control what you're doing. I'm just saying, be careful, you know? Matthew says, I drank Monster for a month and now I have stomach problems that will haunt me forever. I have to eat diet, otherwise my stomach fails. Yeah. Family members, like especially my younger sister, who
Oh,
got, well, quote unquote, banned from Monsters for a good while too.
the SP
She's
gonna
just
echo for a
a
while.
memory sufferer, so she needs the she needs the caffeine in order to regulate everything so that she isn't getting constant migraines. Like only cover so much, you know.
I know, I know.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
echoing, huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Sorry.
accidentally put my headset turned off. That's what happened. Camera flip. There.
Yeah, it doesn't help that my Wi-Fi's not cooperating half the time anyway. Sorry.
No, not again.
Oh no. Uh-oh. Yeah, it's a good thing the camera's not on the lizard. So anyways, hello to anyone new. I am Vesper. I am not the streamer. I am simply what you'd call a frequent guest. uh, Lizard Man.
Sorry, chat. I'm not sure what happened, but my my charging cable just gave up and my headset's dead. Wait, I'm trying to find the spare one as we speak. So legit, Vesper actually has to take over. Take over. Ah, shoot. Would this thing work? Let's see. All right. Not saying it's PD, but let's see if this is more stable. Crossing my fingers. All right, second time's the charm. Well, third, but you know what I mean. Oh my goodness, am I back?
Oh,
Sorry about that.
it's working
Quest,
now.
Quest Pro things is like happening. 15 FPS, my bad, chat. Okay, my headset is cycling between charging and not charging with the cable, so I'm not sure how long that is going to stay that way.
No,
Oh, no.
no, you need to order a new cable.
Yeah, I do.
Oh gosh. All right, so yeah,
Technical
pay
difficulties.
bills,
It
order
happens.
charger. hmm
There's my overlay layout. There we go.
Unfortunately, it happens.
It happens. I don't know how long my headset's gonna keep stable because it keeps on charging, discharging every 5 seconds, but here's the hoping.
So yeah, this guy will continue managing, trying not to die for a moment. I
Oh!
guess.
You saw my mummified form. Nah, that's clipping. It's not full. That's my flying controls.
Mummified form. This lizard
There we go.
needs to eat, I guess. You're really that hungry, huh?
Oh, what you saw, chat, is a common method for floating clipping. You see, if you have your Avi unshrunk when you have clothes on, more often than not, your limbs are going to clip to your clothes. So most Avi creators either just shrink the insides a little bit or a lot. I just don't want clipping. Period. So, yeah. So hello, Noel. Funny, you happened upon me as I am having a stream hiccup. There we go. Flying speed. Set this here. Now you know the secret.
There's a bench
Oh, it's
says,
dead again.
So we
Oh,
can't
no.
call him Gabunk, we have to call him
Well,
Absence Money.
that happened, chat. I'm super dead. Let me restart the stream. Once I solve this.